Yeah, it's been an interesting day in Ontario politics. Interesting last 48 hours, really. Yesterday was Mother's Day, and I hope everyone had a good Mother's Day. That was a fun time. Me and my mother went mini golfing with my sister and stepdad, so that was a nice time. But that's a bit ancillary from today's main topic.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, the reason I brought you on, I've been telling you, you've been having me on your show a lot. And I've been telling you I'm gonna bring you on to talk about the Ontario Liberal leadership race when it's time. But then we got some late breaking news on, I believe it was Saturday.
Yes,
Um,
it was indeed on Saturday on May 9th. It would
n-
have that was
so now the plan was for Nate Erskine Smith, Liberal MP, who's I guess you could say somewhat heterodox. He was very briefly housing minister. I believe
blink and you miss it.
Was it pre-election that
Uh,
Carney made him housing minister, or was
Technically,
that
it was in
Trudeau?
like the twilight moments of Trudeau, and then carried in for like a month or two into Carney before, that temporary cabinet Carney had.
Right, yeah,
Yeah, and then Nate was bounced.
right. And so um Nate, I would say is, if such a thing exists, on the left side of the Liberal Party of Canada. Um, if we look at, because I did live the first 26 years of my life in Ontario. Um, so my knowledge of Ontario politics is a bit outdated, but you look at when the Liberals have won recently, right, under McGuinty and then under Wynne in 2014. It's been a result of being able to win over NDP voters, right?
Yeah, the ability
And
to consolidate at least some of the orange red swing voter is pretty much essential to the Ontario Liberals being
right,
able to not even a minority government. They need to be able to pull some of that vote.
yeah, and then of course the PCs know they need to win federal Liberal voters to um, be electable, generally. Um, and so when I was growing up, when I was a teenager and I guess also in my 20s, Dalton McGuinty was sort of this dominant force in Ontario politics. Lots of critiques to be made of him for certain, but I think there were the things that the policies that he's remembered for, I think, are things that would get people who might otherwise vote NDP on board. I'm thinking of phasing out coal, large subsidies for renewable energy, which I think a lot of that was a victim of bad timing. Um, I know what made a lot of right wingers mad was the sort of a health premium of the sort we used to have in Alberta. Um, for it was cut, I believe, by Ed Stelmach in the late 2000s, which is, I mean, essentially a tax specifically to fund healthcare that he, campaigned 2004. Again, not a left winger, saying no new
No,
taxes.
yeah, Dalton McGuinty I would
H.W.
categorize
Bush style.
very, very much as a centrist, but like he knew he had to offer token things to left wing voters to keep the NDP vote suppressed.
Right. And I mean, phasing out coal, no slouch. Right.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
oh
that's a
yeah, I
big,
have no
that did
complaints about that. That's more of a token effort, actually. I should we credit where
yeah.
credit's due there. Ontario has some of the cleanest air of any in the country because of the gas plant and coal plant phase outs.
But do you, I know because they shut down two gas plants and there was a scandal surrounding that because it was a very political decision. I think appealing to some NIMBY sentiments, but Ontario does get some of its power from gas, right? It's
Is You're right. Actually, I brain
I
farted.
think
There is
it's. I
still,
mean, it's
yeah,
mostly nuclear.
I
It might.
definitely brain farted because there is an Enbridge natural gas pipeline that goes into my basement. So, like, yes, clearly, but getting rid of the coal plants was really important. A lot, something people don't realize about coal: the ash when it's burned is radioactive. Uh, so if you're concerned about nuclear waste, which is radioactive but solid and contained in a container, you should really be concerned about radioactive ash in the atmosphere and air that we breathe.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, phasing out coal, I mean, that's like kind of the first step in climate action, right? Just because there are cheaper alternatives. Again, I think, I mean, when we did it here in Alberta, I mean, the Alberta NDP was lucky because renewables, you know, they were able to sort of stimulate this booming renewable market that Smith just
And to make another
shut down.
comparison
But
between McGuinty and Ontario and Alberta, if you're Albertan and you're familiar with like the central like health database that like all doctors and nurses go into to access your file, it was actually a scandal and a failure when Ontario tried to do that here. We do not have shared electronic records, and it can sometimes be a pain in the ass getting one doctor to see notes another doctor made at a different clinic.
right. Well, the difference I think it might be because Alberta is the only province with like a centralized health uh care agency and Alberta Health Services rather than like regional health boards, which is what Alberta had until 2010, I want to say 2008, 2010, somewhere in that range. The
And I like the
boards were
model. It just
consolidated
needs
into.
more funding. Way,
Well,
way
it's
more funding.
I have a bunch of friends who work for AUP, which is like Alberta's OPSU, right? Provincial Public Sector Union, and it's good from a bargaining perspective, right? Because it gives healthcare workers more power that they all work for the same employer, right?
Right. Like in a way, like in terms of labor relations, like consolidation helps both sides in honesty. Like it creates a certain efficiency, like in terms of bargaining. Like, I mean, obviously corporations and central employers are going to be abusive with their power. It's a tale as old as time. But like the larger a union, the more bargaining power the union has too.
Right. But of course, that's not the reason why the conservatives did that. They
Oh,
did
of
it
course not.
to cut healthcare,
Happy side effect
which
though.
we're dealing with the
Yeah.
consequences of. But anyways, back to Ontario Liberal politics.
Yeah, the
So
main
Nate
topic of
Erskine
the day.
Smith ran for the Liberal leadership in the race that Bonnie Crombie won, former Mississauga mayor.
Yes, and this would have been in 2023 over the course of a
Right
few
after
months.
Stephen Del Duca, who's now the mayor. He's my parents' mayor in Vaughan.
Mm.
After he stepped down, had a disastrous election as Liberal leader, the NDP remained the official opposition, and Crombie becomes leader. Erskine Smith runs as candidate. Now, I don't think it was a secret because I was aware of it that he was planning on running for leader again this time around after Crombie stepped down for a less disastrous performance in the 2025 election than Del Duca. She won more
To
votes
clarify,
than the
he has been
NDP.
planning to run again for leader since he lost the first time around. No,
Right.
he just said, like, immediately after Crombie is probably going to fail, and then I'll go for the second time back then. And I mean, he was correct in the first half. We'll see whether he's able to pull it off the second time. But he has experienced what you could call a setback.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll get to that moment. You worked on his initial leadership campaign.
Yeah, I volunteered on his initial leadership campaign. This was back in the days, folks, when I still used to be a political organizer. I thankfully don't work on campaigns anymore. I write, I do interviews, and also occasionally I get to do actual reporting, which is a joy. But no, and back in 2023, I was volunteering on Nate Erskine Smith's leadership, which campaign, which failed. But that's an important thing that we should probably disclose to the audience watching right now.
Yeah. I think that is certainly worth noting that you're not entirely impartial here, and that's why we have you because
Right. Oh, I wear
Nair
my
again,
bias on my sleeve.
yeah,
Eh,
and Nayerskin Smith. When I heard he was running again, I'm like, based on the dynamics in Ontario politics, where you still have a three-party system, unlike the Western provinces, where it's just the NDP is essentially a coalition of Liberals and New Democrats, and even some federal conservatives, certainly here in Edmonton, for example, where, I mean, you just look at the electoral map federally, which is all blue except for now two red seats, one in the south, that's Matt Genereux's riding, and who's a former conservative MP, is elected as conservative, and was a former PC MLA back when Smith was leader of the Wild Rose Party during the Redford era. And Eleanor Olszewski in Edmonton Center, which is the riding right next to mine that represents downtown Edmonton. And then, of course, Heather McPherson in Edmonton Strathcona. Um, and then the rest is blue. You look at it provincially, and it's the entire, there's not a single, right? The NDP has all of Edmonton. UCP had one Edmonton riding, Southwest, after the 2019 election, and Casey Madhu, who Smith made deputy premier, was a sort of scandal-plagued justice minister, um, lost his seat. And then the suburbs surrounding Edmonton are mostly blue, with the exception of St. Albert and Sherwood Park, which are orange. Um, Now, Ontario, very different. Because you have three parties, similar to Alberta in, 2008, right? When you had a conservative majority, liberal. Well, I mean, it was different because the NDs are your opposition now, but liberal opposition, and then, a small New Democrat caucus. Um,
Yeah, in
it's all about,
Ontario, for context, folks, it's the NDP who are the official opposition, and the Liberals who are the third party. The Greens, however, have two MPPs, so they're
oh,
they're also,
they have two.
yeah, they have two. They have Mike and they have Aislinn Clancy. So they're the
Okay.
yeah, yeah, the Greens are having an okay time. Like they're
And what are the, like, because I look at like the BC Greens, where you go from, right, Andrew Weaver was their leader, who's essentially like a centrist who cares about climate, and now we have Emily Lowen, who's a leftist.
yeah, you went from a Tory on bike to an eco socialist, pretty much.
Right, Alberta Greens, I don't think have ever won a seat. Uh, their former leader, actually, a guy by the name of Joe Anglin, eventually was elected as a Wild Rose MLA, which is interesting. Um, but I don't think Alberta's ever elected a Green to the Legislative Assembly.
I wonder
Nor had,
why.
well, but the Alberta Greens in the last
I
election
tease.
were the leader, a fellow whose name I forget, lives in BC now, was running as an eco socialist.
Good for him.
Um, yeah. Anyways, um, so I figured Nate was a guy who could consolidate, you know, people in the center, people on the left behind him, and maybe beat Doug Ford. Because, I mean, Doug Ford is, I don't think he's ever won a majority of the popular vote. But, with
Not that
the,
I'm aware. Like, he's won
but the,
pretty resounding pluralities, but you are
yeah, like
correct.
45% or something.
Yeah, like this. So it's not like the worst crime first past the post has ever committed.
Right. And now, so Nair Smith wants to run for the Ontario Liberal leadership. And so, as sort of a gesture, because he was criticized in the previous leadership race for not having a seat. right? For
Yeah,
running as a
he was
federal
accused
MP.
of having one foot out, one foot in, not being fully committed in the 2023 race because he was keeping his federal seat. He wasn't resigning that and immediately going for something provincially. And that was like a big criticism that was constantly thrown at by pretty much every like critic from other candidates, like over and over. This time, because when Dolly Begum, the former deputy leader of the Ontario NDP, went to join the federal Liberals and left her provincial seat for a federal seat, that provincial seat is Scarborough Southwest. It is immediately bordering next door, Beaches East York, the riding Nate represents federally. So to his team, and I don't work for again, I don't work for any candidates now. I don't do any political organizing now. But his team clearly decided that running for this seat, this open seat in the riding immediately next door, it would help alleviate that criticism, which was sure to pop up again. So he tried to contest the Liberal nomination for Scarborough Southwest provincially, the Ontario Liberal nomination. And then the grand irony is people started accusing him of being a parachute and trying to use it as a stepping stone for the leadership, which felt like a bit of a 180 from the previous criticisms, admittedly.
I mean, that is correct though, isn't it? Not that. I mean, parachute. Fine, he's from the riding next door.
Yeah, and
The
for
ridings in
context,
Ontario
the
though
person who
are
beat him, Jeremy, is from London, Ontario.
right,
So, like,
and they
he
but
wa-
they've lit. It's in
it, and
Go ahead.
he only moved back to Scarborough recently, the other guys. So it's like it's hard to make that criticism when other people in the race,
Right.
the winner, like did a bit bigger of a leap. And like he's well established in London. He owns 30 Domino's pizza
Yeah.
franchises known for their temporary foreign workers and depressed wages.
Finally, a small business owner is represented in politics.
Well, I mean, it's funny because his dad was a communist in Bangladesh.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah, well, wouldn't be the first. Wouldn't be the first. But okay, so Nate runs for Scarborough Southwest. Again, I don't follow these things very closely. I guess I would say if people are watching in Western Canada, in Alberta, I would say Scarborough would be like North Calgary, right? Or perhaps South Edmonton, very like Millwoods area, like very racialized, um, historically underserved by the
Yeah,
city
in
and
this
the
context,
province.
there's a very large Bengali population in Scarborough
Right.
Southwest. Dolly Begum is actually the first Bengali to be elected to the Federal House of Commons, so good for her.
Oh, wow,
Uh,
really?
yeah. Yeah, so like it, yeah, it's and Asimul Hafiz, the guy who beat Nate Erskine-Smith, yeah, he was handing out literature to voters, him and his people, that was written mainly in Bengali. Which I don't actually have a problem with writing things in literature other than English and French. Like you can be an immigrant and understand English and French and still maybe have like more fluency and detail and deftness in your native tongue. That's perfectly fine. Like the pro if you've heard criticisms on the front of that, the valid one laid around a valid kernel, which has unfortunately been buried in a slew of racist bullshit, is that the Ontario Liberal Party, like every provincial party in Ontario for some reason, you don't need to be a citizen to vote in nomination contests. Further, you don't actually have to be a permanent resident. You can the rules are they have to be ordinarily resident, and it's been an issue in the past where like students or like people who are here on an explicitly temporary visa are voting in these contests, which is a bit of an absurdity. Like I'm fine with permanent residency being able to vote in nomination contests. I don't have any problem with that. Like they're committed and in on Canada, but the idea that you don't have to be even a permanent resident to vote in nomination contests, well, it doesn't match up with elections Ontario rules, certainly.
I mean, I support citizenship for all. So if you live here, you pay taxes, you work here. I think you should be able to get involved in politics. In, but you should also be a citizen. Also, there's actually, speaking of the sort of Bengali angle, there was a piece I found in this very conservative, some would say right of conservative publication called Without Diminishment. Are you familiar with Without Diminishment, Jake?
I'm not, and I'm concerned about what that name means.
Yeah, it's sort of this, uh, they're calling it new right, which is not the old new right that, neoconservative, neoliberal fusionism. It's sort of this populist right. I believe Christine Elliott, who is running for the leadership of the BC Conservatives, is involved with it. Jeff Russ, who's a National Post columnist, who wrote something recently about, Avi Lewis being a third worldist, which was fun. Um,
I mean, I'm
so
a
this is
third
about,
worldist, so inshallah, it's so.
but anyways, there's this piece that I thought was interesting that I kind of wanted to discuss with you, uh, that I came across today, because maybe to tee this up. So Nate loses the nomination, as you noted.
Very
Uh, I
closely.
wasn't
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. I, again, wasn't following it very closely, but I figured this is a guy who's been elected to
He
office. He
had a
has
lot of
leadership
buzz at the
ambitions.
start,
He's
but
from the riding
yeah.
next door. Um, and Nate's people are, or Nate is calling shenanigans, in saying that there were irregularities. And before we kind of critique this piece, I wanted to ask you, is there merit to what Nate's saying? Were there irregularities, or is he just speaking of exasperation?
The honest answer is that I don't know. I wrote about this in my own piece, but Nate, while they won't be specific about the irregularities in public, very specific, what one member of Nate's team has told me on the record. Well, not on the record. They weren't able to speak publicly on it, so I didn't cite their name. But they're believing that apparently hundreds of people, according to the Nate scrutineers who were in the room, were allowed to cast ballots without showing proof of where they live, which is a pretty clear and obvious problem. The problem, they haven't provided any evidence of this yet, though. And I note this in my column, that there needs to be like an actual clear proof of this in order, but I mean, they say they're going to be challenging the results. I clear something. I I think they may have seen something. We'll find out exactly what they can prove. The Ontario Liberal Party's attitude today seems to be "prove it if you can," which
Mhm.
was a bit flippant, John Fraser's remarks. But yeah,
And that's the interim leader.
he's the this is the third time now he's been interim leader while we've been doing a leadership contest, and he's getting increasingly efficient at it. Also, for disclosure to folks, I do still retain a membership in the Ontario Liberal Party. That's mainly just so I can be voting in this leadership contest, and then we'll see whether I keep it after. I will be putting out my endorsement ranking as I did for both the federal Liberals and federal NDP, and I always note and knows whether or not what entanglements I have. But moving on. Yeah.
Yeah. So you came out with this piece last week. Ontario Liberal insiders are waging a shadow campaign against Nate Erskine Smith. And I thought this was interesting. I mean, he was obviously the anti-establishment candidate, so I'm not
Yeah, that's never
surprised.
been a secret to anybody.
Yeah, so I wasn't surprised that there was resistance from within the party ranks towards his candidacy. But I guess tell me a bit, sort of what did you find out from your sources about this what you call shadow campaign against NES?
Well, it's a gradually escalating series of things, my favorite thing in the opening here you can see is I actually draw a parallel between Avi Lewis and Nate Erskine Smith, in that they're both like the anti-establishment candidate of their respective parties, a bit to the left of their party's current political consensus. They want to uproot some old guard and bring in some new management, but in terms of the actual uh, say, the actual discoveries and reports of substance I put in this piece, uh, the obvious thing that everyone knew, both Nate and his opponents, is if he won this nomination and then was able to be the contestant for the by-election and win that by-election, it would accelerate his leadership. But if he were to lose, then it would also put a large damper on that leadership. So, two of Rob's core leadership contestant opponents, Rob Sturjanik of the riding of Ajax and Lee Fairclough of the riding of Etobicoke Lakeshore, uh, they have quietly their leadership campaigns, although only Lee has officially declared. Rob is quiet but has a team together. They've quietly been providing assistance to Kadira Jackson and Sanola Fees, two of Nate's three opponents in this leadership contest. That in itself is not disallowed. It's not against the rules. I did find it a little underhanded. Rob Serjanik, I will note, at was at the voting on the day of in Scarborough Southwest on Saturday. He did come up to me to talk to me about this piece and insist that it is not true and, quote, my sources suck. What I would note to him is that there was a member of his team wearing the Kadira Jackson button behind him while he said this to me. So I would inform him I have eyes.
Yeah, and I guess my question is, I mean, isn't that just politics? I mean, everyone has their
Oh
alliances and
yeah,
loyalties, but
that in itself isn't much, and if that was the only stuff, then it wouldn't be worth reporting on. But as you can see in the next two paragraphs on screen here, we get to the situation. So, as people may or may not be aware, there are various staff that the Central Party employs. They employ party staff who work not for the legislature but for the party itself. Their salaries paid through political donations and other sources of money for parties like the per vote subsidy. Uh, and their job is to work for the party and for the people who manage the party, the elected executive council and the larger provincial council. On the other hand, there's the Liberal Caucus Services Bureau. Those are people who every party with party status in a legislature, they get funding from the government to do to staff their caucus. They're supposed to serve all MPPs of the Liberal caucus equally. And the important thing is, regardless of whether they're party staff or caucus staff, uh, they are supposed to be neutral in nomination contests in the party's case because party staff run the contest. Uh, and in caucus staff case, because they're not supposed to be picking their own bosses. Like it's supposed to be for voters to decide who are MPPs and the party membership to decide who's an MPP. And Catherine McGarry, the Ontario Liberal Party president, explicitly did demand of both elected executives in the party and of these various staff that they remain neutral. The only staff who can really support or should be able to support a leadership candidate are those who like work for an individual MPP. Like if like Rob Serjanik's individual staff obviously can help him work on a leadership his leadership campaign. But what you can't have people who work at the Ontario Liberal Party central office who are or who work for the central caucus uh, interfering in these things when they've been demanded supposedly to be neutral. And this is clearly a false neutrality because we have indeed identified the Star in their own reporting identified three people who work at LCSB who they refused to name. I, however, did name the person I identified. His name is Michael Fontaine. Coincidentally and unrelated to this story, but yet another disclosure, he's a former acquaintance of mine. But he's an experienced staffer, previously employed in high ranking roles for various liberal bosses, federally and provincially. And he has been was observed repeatedly at the campaign headquarters for Hassan Hafiz, the guy who won. And he is not the only person like who has witnessed at Hafiz's office working for him who receives a salary from LCSB. And that's not acceptable. That is indeed resources which are supposed to be neutral to all the party being waged to put a thumb on the scale.
Mhm. Right. So I mean, there's obviously some pretty uh the appearance of impropriety there. What means does Erskine Smith have at his disposal to challenge it? Because I mean, I would imagine he would appeal to the party, but as you've outlined, the
Yeah,
party doesn't
the
want him to
part
win.
yeah, an appeal to the party is not really worth much. The truth is that this is probably going to get really ugly because I have read the rules regarding nomination contests, and as I link to in my newer piece on Substack, what I've learned is the chief returning officer, which is the person the party appoints to run the contest, and essentially in a lot of cases has dictatorial powers over how the race can be ruled with no real way to appeal it. One thing that the chief returning officer, in this case, he could do uh, is if someone didn't have proof of address, he could arbitrarily decide whether or not they could get a ballot based on his own subjective judgment. So, like, it's really hard because the truth is, it could be the case that a lot of people are allowed to vote without proving they live in the riding, and the liberals could say, yes, our rules allow this tough shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's
And do you know sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
like the truth, I guess, is it's going to be really, really brutal because, like, if Nate insists on pursuing a challenge, and it appears that he does, it is going to be a scorched earth path because there is going to be implying that there's a lot of corruption that needs to be rooted out. If what he's alleging is accurate. And of course, again, like it is important that we see actual, proof so we can determine one way or another, like whether this sort of activity happened and to what degree.
Mhm. And now, um, do you know, is Nate still planning on running for the leadership?
I don't know, but the thing is, he lost very closely. Like, let me go through the ballot count here. There were four candidates because the bottom two did so bad, they both got eliminated in the first round, which I didn't even know could happen on a ranked ballot. I thought it has to go one at a time. But before and by the first round, Nate was leading by 9 votes. And then after the bottom two candidates, their votes got allocated to second and third choices, uh, the Nate lost by 19 votes. So like it's a slim margin, and the Nate lost specifically. He had 699 votes, and Asanul Hafiz had 718. So it was a close margin, and if the improprieties happened and the numbers alleged, yes, it absolutely could have had an impact on the outcome of the race, and that's a serious problem.
Mhm. And now I saw you and Quito Maggie had were had a bit of a spat online today.
Yeah,
Do you
Akita is an
wanna
interesting fella.
explain that?
I wrote a piece a few months ago about how Keto and Ferd Longo through Main Street and Bellwether were providing assistance to one of Rob's leadership opponents, no, Nate, to Rob, Nate's leadership opponents. Uh, and I wrote that, hey, you just lost a defamation lawsuit that Nate filed against you. Maybe you shouldn't be polling on this race, and maybe you shouldn't be working for Nate's opponents when you're in like a suit and countersuit, because that might be a conflict of interest. And that set Keto off months ago. But Keto is one of the crowd of liberals who really, really, really doesn't like Nate. And the thing I find is people who like Nate, it's not like they're super crazy about him, but people who hate Nate, there's like a psychosis about it. Like, at least the
Not
liberals who hate Nate. Like, if you're in another party and you hate Nate, that's perfectly allowed and fine. But like the venom that some liberals have for Nate Erskine Smith is really, it's funny and also sad.
not unlike Ivy Lewis.
Yeah, it's that's why I made the comparison. Like like they act like he's got. I mean, Tom Allison, who's a major Liberal Party insider, and to his credit, doesn't hold a position with the party right now, and was volunteering with Hafiz above board. He said he was volunteering against Nate to save the Ontario Liberal Party. Like it is incredibly acrimonious. There's a reason in my columns I use the term Ontario Liberal Civil War. Like these people have been itching for a fight.
Mhm. And there was something about a video going around
Yeah,
from one of Nate's opponents that Maggie is now claiming was AI generated. You want to tell us about that?
yeah, so Keto Maggie made the very serious mistake of assuming that I would publish a story without verifying my sources. What I have learned through talking with numerous sources and also through looking at the Facebook myself before the profile was deleted, and I assume an attempt to take this evidence down offline. Asanul Hafiz is a bit of a controversial guy. He has called for the death of numerous political opponents of his family in Bangladesh. One of those who was admittedly a war criminal and had done some bad stuff. However, that guy was executed, and Amnesty International and a bunch of other like international bodies raised extreme like questions about the circumstances because the Bangladeshi government pressured the ICJ into making a ruling and not taking their one it's to call for political violence against tons of people, I would hope is outside the bounds of Canadian electoral politics. And on his Facebook in 2013, he did this repeatedly for context of his age. He had already been out of university for a few years. He had purchased his first of his Domino's franchises a year prior in 2012. So it's not like he was a teenager, like going off the handle. This was an adult man. And also, even more disturbing, in 2021, he appears to have posted footage of it's unclear to me whether the footage is real or simulated, uh, of but it's of sexual assault and incest. With and the video is captioned itself. I can pull up in my actual column here how I actually uh, let me actually get the exact wording here because and I guess this is where I slip in the trigger warning. Uh, but the link he posted more than once in 2011 and was entitled "Brother Rapes His Sister," and it was captioned, "She was hurting for days and could not walk." Now, it has been proposed that perhaps this was a hack of his profile. That excuse probably doesn't hold as well for the political commentary relevant to his own family. But also, if this was a hack, I assume he would have deleted it in the last, 14 years. Some, I mean, but what I can say is that the posts were real. That Keto Maggie is completely incorrect when he asserts that it's AI. I confirmed the veracity of this, and furthermore, Jeremy, I confirmed that the Ontario Progressive Conservatives and Ontario New Democrats have known about this and been holding on to it in their opposition research binders, hoping liberals would be spiteful enough to pick Asanul Hafiz instead of Nate Erskine Smith so that they could then use this. And there's a reason that it then started to percolate out. And I'm not actually I wrote about it in my column, but this had already been a matter of public discussion for a couple days and of private discussion apparently for months. So and what I write in my column is that this represents a massive flaw in the vetting process for the Ontario Liberals, who claim to vet candidates to make sure that they don't have controversial things like this in their past. Or if they do, to see if they even have an explanation for it. Keto Maggie asserted in his response screed to me that I don't know what I'm talking about, and that the Ontario Liberals clearly did know and didn't see a problem with it, which is not the defense I would have run with. And that was before he decided it was AI, which only he's saying and no one else has claimed that I've seen. That's the full story on keto and also on the opposition research. Although, actually, no, a new bit of opposition research has surfaced about Asmul Hafiz. One of his campaign events for this nomination, he had a speaker, and this is confirmed. We've seen photos and footage of this person at Asmul Hafiz's event. Is a convicted sex offender who sexually assaulted a 12-year-old girl.
Hmm.
Yeah, so needless to say, the guy who beat Nate has some controversy, and there are some people who have their own feelings about that controversy, Keto Maggie included.
Yeah. Now, I just pulled up because we've got breaking news, although I see it is actually from several hours ago, that Nate Erskine Smith is preparing to challenge the result of the Liberal nomination contest in Scarborough
Yeah,
Southwest. And
that
I met
comes
with
from
his
my
team.
friend Ahmad El Bayoumi from Polycorner. Everyone go subscribe to his stuff. He's great.
Do you subscribe to it? Because it's paywalled. So I
I share a
don't.
subscription with other people, and I don't have the login at the moment. So,
Okay. Because, but I'm guessing that this would just be going through the party's formal
yeah,
appeal
yeah.
processes.
Also, actually, to be clear, there he hasn't written his column yet on that. That's coming out tomorrow. He's just posting his subscription link so you can subscribe and then get it tomorrow. You
Okay.
are not the only
Well,
person who has been confused about that. Someone else clicked on it and asked me, Jake, where's the thing? Like, yeah, I don't work at Polycorner, but like he's a friend of mine and he does good work and good journalism there, and y'all should read his stuff.
hmm yeah, because, we'll see what happened. Uh, yeah, I guess I'm sure we'll learn more as, the challenge takes shape, and maybe some people in the campaigns talk to media and provide more of an account of what we know. I was wondering, let's read this without diminishment piece, if you want to, from Dakota Jeffrey Petts. Do you know who that is?
Now yeah, I know who Dakota Jeffrey Petts is. I, I, I don't agree with him on much, but we have he's a nice enough guy.
Right. Fair enough. So let's I'm gonna pull up this piece because it I think it starts from the premise that Nate Erskine Smith was robbed and that this is unfair, and then it goes certain directions.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not a fan of the explicitly racist direction that what I like. There are legitimate complaints that I think will Nate's team is obviously interested in pursuing, as Ahmed just reported. What I can say with certainty and what several members of Nate's team has told me is that they are actually really kind of pissed off at the fact that this is the following it's starting to get. With
yeah,
yeah, I like because and like people have their opinion, and like I said, like I think you should at least be a permanent resident to have to be able to vote in an Ontario Liberal or any party's nomination I also think nomination contests should just be run by Elections Ontario, who can create a register and make sure no one's part of multiple parties at once and have the ID rules be the same rules as for an actual election. You get what I mean? Like
yeah.
there are gooder ways to do this, and regardless of how you feel about Nate, there are lessons we can learn here to shore this up. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to use this and then have people say, "Oh, this is the problem with importing all these people," and like
Right,
you
right, right.
thought it would help you, and now it's going against you.
Okay. Let's read this piece and feel free to chime in if you have anything to say as I'm reading it, and I will do the same. So, Nathaniel Erskine Smith's defeat in the Ontario Liberal Party's nomination contest in Scarborough Southwest is a warning sign for both the Canadian state and the health of our democracy in the face of diaspora politics. I mean, all right. I mean, certainly diaspora politics in Canada have caused some very real issues.
Yeah, we're both
Uh,
anti-Zionist Jews. We can talk for days about diaspora
Yeah,
politics.
and I also live in a city with not one but two monuments honoring Ukrainian Nazi collaborators, and of course we have
Shout out
Sikh.
Yaroslav Hunka, my favorite Ontarian Nazi.
Oh yeah, that's right. He lives in Ontario,
Can't
not
wait for that to
Edmonton.
get clipped out of context.
I mean, the thing is, Ontario, like Edmonton to Ukrainians is like Miami to Cubans, right? It's where all the really right wing people fled
We have a lot of the
communism
right-wing
to.
Ukrainians in or Oakville in Ontario too.
Yeah, Oakville
We
also
we can have
had
two
Nazi.
equivalents of Miami, Cuba.
Yeah. Well, actually, Oakville had two Nazi monuments in the same cemetery. Now they're down to one because they got rid of one.
Yeah,
But
we managed to bully them that much, and then we gave up instead of finishing the job.
yeah, and of course, we also have Sikh people getting murdered outside their gurdwaras
But it's
by
okay because
agents of the
Mark
Indian
Carney
state.
doesn't think foreign interference from India is a problem.
Yeah, yeah. Other foreign interference. Yeah, India is now on the list of acceptable foreign
My
interference
Sikh
with
friends are all
Israel.
scared
With
shitless, but we're not concerned.
Right, with Israel, the Gulf states, Turkey, and of course the big Kahuna, the United States. All right. So, all right. Yeah, there are problems with diaspora politics. Let's see what they are in this case. The longtime federal MP's failed bid was marked by reports of unethical practices, such as sample ballots being distributed in Bengali, instructing
Yeah,
voters to vote
I'll
for.
jump in right there. I don't think it's unethical to distribute, again, like I said this earlier, but like I think it's fine distributing materials in other languages other than English and French. For one, what if they're fucking indigenous? Like you're gonna say you can't have
Yeah.
anything in
Well,
indigenous
I
languages?
think without diminishment might have some opinions about that
Well,
that we would also not agree with.
yeah.
Um,
But yeah,
but
carry on.
yeah, I mean that's unethical. Like that's your like the best example you can come up with
I feel
unethical
like I had
conduct.
better examples of improprieties in my piece than Dakota does in his.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so they're distributing it in another language that lots of people in the riding speak. You know, everyone does that. A lot of I remember in Toronto, in Chinatown, seeing election signs that also had Chinese on them, and I think that's great. I have no problem with that
I know
whatsoever.
campaigns who make sure to do it in both like traditional and simplified. Yeah, it's a common thing.
Mhm.
And it's certainly not a partisan thing. I guess I can agree with this guy in that it's certainly everywhere now, but I don't agree with him that it's bad.
Yeah. Now, Dakota writes, it is worth noting that neither Canadian citizenship nor fluency in English or French is legally required to participate in internal party elections. All right, Canadian citizenship. I mean, I agree with that. And I think that everyone who lives in Canada should have citizenship. Fluency in English and French. Why? If you can participate in politics in Canada in your mother tongue, because there are people you know operating in politics that speak English or French and your mother tongue. I don't see a problem with that. This
I
is
mean, I
not the
guess to be fair, you need to have some command of English or French to be a permanent resident. So that does, in effect, go part and parcel, but you don't need to spell it out. And spelling it out is signaling a certain virtue or intent,
yeah, virtue signaling indeed.
or in this case,
This is
vice
not
signaling.
Yeah, this is not the first time that party elections in the Greater Toronto Area have been marred by non-citizen voters being effectively whipped up to vote for a specific candidate. Erskine Smith himself appeared incredulous after the results were announced, stating that he was embarking on a full debrief with his team about the voting process. He went on to say that he had never seen anything like it. After a decade serving as a Toronto area MP, Erskine Smith was defeated by a man who had only moved to Scarborough Southwest the previous year and had no previous experience in elected politics.
Let
Now,
me, if I may, add some context here. The reason Asanol Fees moved to Scarborough Southwest in the previous year, he actually was intending to pursue the federal Liberal nomination. Then, of course, Dolly Begum got appointed into it, so he pivoted and went to the provincial one. But not to be too reductionist, but it is probably true that the Bengali community in Scarborough Southwest, which he does have a younger connection to in previous years when he first came to Canada. I mean, he spent a bit of time here. He got to Canada and Scarborough in 2002, but then by 2004, he was off at the University of Windsor. So, like, either he, I'm rambling on a bit, but that would be the reason why he had moved there within the recent year. It does lead some credence to the idea that calling Nate a parachute while not calling this guy a parachute is a little bit silly.
yeah, it's a bit rich. It's a bit rich. I mean, again, that I think is a fair critique, but let's see where he goes with this.
Yeah, again,
Uh,
like, well,
More questions are now being raised about possible sorry, my phone just started ringing. Possible voter identity fraud.
hmm,
A high profile sitting member of parliament lost in his own backyard after a blitz of mass instant signups that are unencumbered by any meaningful price for membership, whether civic or financial. Uh, Civic price for membership. That's interesting.
I,
And I mean, he's talking about
yeah.
citizenship, right? And fluency in
Well,
one of two official languages.
that it might not necessarily mean that, like, civic could also mean, like, some form of public service. I have heard this floated by some right-wing voices that, like, I mean, you occasionally hear them talk about things like, mandatory service, not necessarily military service, but it is a thought in right-wing circles that there should be some sort of buy-in to benefit from the societal order.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is
diaspora,
reactionary, the idea of creating an in group and an out group, but
right.
nonetheless.
Diaspora-led activism is eroding Canadian sovereignty at its most fundamental level, namely the ballot box. For those of us who believe in a strong, sovereign Canada in a well governed Ontario, this is about the integrity of our institutions themselves. The displacement of an established Canadian legislator, as disagreeable as his beliefs may be to those on the right, by a candidate buoyed by concentrated ethnic, community specific mobilization highlights a sovereignty gap. The gap is often tied to foreign political interests, and as many other instances have shown, foreign actors are all too happy to exploit it. Um,
Yeah, this
what foreign political interests? Like, I think that's a leap here, going from um, yes, this diaspora community that was able to participate because of the lax rules surrounding Ontario Liberal leadership
like I
races.
guess you can say, I mean, based on the evidence I was talking about of his posts from 2013, like he does have some political engagement, like with Bangladeshi politics, and like his father was a figure in the Communist Party there. So, like, yeah, but to be quite honest, this is not even in the top five examples that would come to mind if I think about like foreign actors motivating like diaspora communities for political aims in Canada.
Yeah, and I just find it hard to believe that Bangladesh cares who the representative, the provincial legislator representing Scarborough Southwest is.
Oh, I mean,
Uh,
like I could see like foreign interference in general happening, especially like if they think it's a way to block a certain leadership candidate for a pretty prominent subnational
yeah, I
jurisdiction.
mean, it's not
Like,
outside the realm of possibility, but
I,
you
you see, I
gotta,
have
you
to keep in
gotta.
mind like the scale of Ontario in terms of population. Like, it is a large entity. Like, it's bigger than a lot of countries.
Mhm. Anyways, Dakota writes that full disclosure, he got his start in politics volunteering for Erskine Smith in 2015. Um, but back then, 11 years ago, in case you can't count, you could still trust your representatives to present themselves honestly and to earn the support of a broad constituency on the basis of national and local policy, no matter how disagreeable their views might have been. Canadians could operate under the assumption that the grassroots were Canadian citizens concerned with Canadian outcomes. Okay. Today, the model is being ruthlessly supplanted, not with grassroots activism, but with guided activism. The Scarborough Southwest nomination includes thousands of memberships that were reportedly created free of charge in a matter of weeks. It suggests that our political parties have become open source platforms for anyone to hack, including foreign proxies. Again, we have this
Okay, that's not
assumption.
yeah, that's not how the I can like I can dismiss this out of hand. That's not how the Ontario Liberal process works. You do actually have to go through a verification process that this person exists at the address described, like in order to confirm your membership and become a member. Like, yes, there's no cost of entry. It's a free membership. Anyone in Ontario can get it. But like the fact that thousands of people signed up for a nomination race in their riding when they may very well be liberals or people who have voted liberal in the past and probably have an interest in who their candidate's going to be, like that's not proof of any, that's proof of a healthy democracy.
Right. And unlike, say, I don't know, the UCP leadership race in 2017, where a lot of Punjabi people in Calgary and Edmonton, bought bulk memberships for their families as a goodwill gesture to Kenny's to the various UCP leadership campaigns, and then never got their voting pins for some mysterious reason that the RCMP looked into and were like, well, Kenny would have won anyways. So,
Yeah,
Who
and
cares that
turnout
there's
for
some?
this nomination was like about average. There were about 1,400 votes cast out of like the 3,600 or so members who were valid and signed up for this contest. But you don't know if that it's average because a lot of people getting memberships they don't use is common and average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Canada, the nomination process remains a glaring national security loophole. These contests are treated as private club matters rather than public democratic exercises. Well, yeah, it's a political party. Uh, they lack the oversight of a neutral authority. Okay, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
This creates a low cost and at times entirely cost free environment, providing a high reward entry point for foreign interference. All you
Uh,
need to do
on this,
is
I agree with them.
Yeah. All you need to do is speak sweet lies to members and constituents.
Oh yeah,
In
that's a
doing
bit
so,
too
you
pithy.
create a motivated interest group that can effectively handpick a representative in a safe seat, bypassing the general electorate entirely. Um, okay, that is you're just describing party nominations. Like what
Well,
should we have a national vote?
they're describing what was accused of happening with Han Dong in 2019. And whether or not he was aware, we don't know, but what we do know is that there were indeed international students who are not permanent residents who were bussed in. And since then, the federal liberals have changed their rules to require you to now be a permanent resident, and such a thing could no longer happen in the Liberal Party of Canada. And so that yeah, it's like this is a weird thing because he keeps interweaving reasonable points with horrible examples. Like,
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's where populists are quite adept, right, at taking reasonable concerns that many people have, and then giving this sort of
yeah, just twisting it around into
form,
like,
right? Now, he claims that 3,580 memberships appeared overnight in a single riding. Is that accurate?
I wouldn't know if they all appeared overnight. I would know those were the number of people who were confirmed by the cutoff.
Right. So again, there's that logical leap in this conflation with, a significant amount of new members. It just happening overnight and not like over the course of
And
the
sure, like
campaign.
there are a lot of signups that happen during a nomination contest, and that's fair. Like everyone gets to do it, and just because you sign someone up doesn't mean they have to vote for you.
Hmm. And he asks, whose interests are being served? Are they Canadian interests or diaspora interests? Again, innuendo. Um,
Yeah, it's hard to even call it innuendo. It's a little blatant.
Yeah, and I felt as I was reading that sounding like Tucker Carlson,
Yeah,
like, just asking questions. Uh,
I don't like this about myself, but I have more of a Tucker Carlson temperament, admittedly. Like,
he is a
like
very talented broadcaster.
oh yeah, it's like I pick up techniques from his interview skills because he's smart enough to know when to just ask a silly or simple question and then give the person enough rope to hang themselves with.
Right, with Ted Cruz, Mike Huckabee, good examples of that. But anyways, the primary duty of an elected official, after all, is to the national and public interest. But when a candidate's mandate is derived from a narrow, diaspora specific recruitment drive, often centered on grievances or political movements from the old country, that candidate becomes a delegate for a foreign interest rather than a representative of Ontario and the Ontarians in that riding. The result illustrates the danger of fragmented national and local loyalties.
So this is like literally the dual loyalties trope used against Jews,
Yeah, but against Bengali
against
people
Bengalis.
in Ontario, without demonstrating
Yeah, with
at all that
like
that is what's
and as
happening.
Jews, we can say like that there is some like collusion with Israel in our diaspora
Well,
that we
oh,
don't
and
like.
I'm sure both of us know people who are quite explicit in not even dual loyalty, um, which would be an improvement, but actually single
And
loyalty
that's
to the
what
state of
this is what's
Israel.
giving me such a weird reaction to this column because it's like it's not that you can't accuse this of happening, but you need really, really good proof, or you're seeing racist ghosts.
Hmm.
And in this case, I
Now,
don't really
here's
see
where
proof of that. Like for all the criticisms I've just vocalized of Asanul Hafiz, like the idea that he's a puppet of the Bangladeshi government or of a foreign Bangladeshi government is not one of them.
right, but Dakota's just asking questions.
Yeah.
Multiculturalism, when left without a strong framework of national identity, allows for the importation of foreign conflicts into our legislative halls. We are seeing the rise of a political class that views a seat in the Canadian legislature as a platform for foreign advocacy rather than a tool for national or provincial governance. Can you imagine if he wrote this about Jews?
No, like that's exactly what I mean. It's like to be
Yeah.
fair, I think I have wrote this about the Israeli lobby in Canada in the past, but I was correct, and also I was a Jew writing it about other Jews. It's very
Right.
like
And you're also
if a
talking about
Bengali was to write this about other Bengalis, it would have a lot more purchase in my mind.
right, and also you're talking about specific, you're not you're but you're also dealing in the realm of, like, evidence based on
Yeah,
things that are
that's what I was going to
said.
say. Evidence, proof, like
Not I
not
mean,
just
right?
vague
There's no he's
gestures.
not
Like,
quoting any the candidate or his supporters suggesting that they are doing this at the behest of foreign interests, right? Or even,
and this is a
implying
thing.
that.
Like, when you contrast this with what I wrote, folks, you have to remember, I was there in person to cover it with other media. I had my badge, I had my camera, I was talking to sources, I was taking photos, I was like physically observing of it because it's important for me. Like, I can't always be on the scene of something, but I want to be able to gather my own evidence. And if I can't, I want to use evidence and cite it from reporters that I trust.
Mhm. And so let's just wrap this up. By prioritizing raw numbers over the quality and loyalty of its candidates, the Ontario Liberals have signaled that they are comfortable being a vessel for proxies, acting on behalf of foreign interests, despite the hardships facing so many Ontarians. Now, I would imagine that Bengali people who are permanent residents in Scarborough might also face some hardships that don't have to do with foreign interests, but just a guess.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
the fall of Nate Erskine Smith is a wake up call for every Canadian who believes that Canada's future should be decided by Canadians for Canadians. Our sovereignty is being auctioned off in community halls and pizza parks. Auctioned off. Where's the money changing hands? What that just came out of nowhere.
And also, like this idea here, like that he's slipping in right at the end, that we got to go find them in their community halls and their pizza part. Like that's like 1950s red baiting McCarthyite.
Yeah.
Like you can't do that. You can't even allude to that.
It is time to close the loophole before legislators become more of a collection of foreign outposts than they already are. Yikes. Yikes. Um,
Fun.
yeah, that was a take. Again,
About as painful as expected.
no, I mean, again, and this is why I read publications like Without Diminishment,
Oh
or
yeah. You,
others like The Hub or The Line.
you want to keep
Is
self appraised, and you want to be able to actually think about what other people are saying, even if you don't agree with it.
yes, and there's an internal logic often. If you accept certain premises, then it makes sense.
Oh
So
yeah.
if you accept the premise that there's something inherently nefarious about people who aren't citizens, who speak primarily a different language, getting involved in the political process, then I mean, it makes a lot of sense and it's well argued. But if you think critically and you think about other possibilities, um, kind of concerning to see um, this sort of sentiment really increase, especially in the province I live in. Now, we're having referendums not about the political involvement of well, actually, yeah, one of the referendums is about requiring ID, proof of citizenship, to vote, um and also charging non-citizens for
Meanwhile,
accessing
proof of
care.
citizenship, when you actually think about it, do most Canadians even have that?
Well, in Alberta, they're planning on putting citizenship on driver's licenses.
Hmm. I I don't
uh
I don't know how I feel about that.
I think it's bad.
Yeah.
Why did like that's really bad, because then it just gives, if you're undocumented, you can't get
Yeah,
ID.
like you're giving yourself away immediately. Like
Which is the
I
point.
yeah, which yeah, it like at the same time, like the fact that like permanent residents can have driver's licenses means it isn't really a very good proof of citizenship for voting, is it?
No, it's proof of address, right?
Yeah, it's proof of
But
address.
even
Uh,
then, you can
to
bring a
be
piece of
yeah,
mail. You can get someone to vouch for you, which you actually can't in Alberta because
yeah.
Daniel sort of got rid of it. But
Yeah, and like to be fair, it's like the main way it's addressed is just that if you lie, they'll come kick the shit out of you and put you in jail.
right. Anyways, I do have to make myself some dinner, and then I got to run out. But Jake, any last thoughts?
Honestly, this is what I would call a complete shit show. The Ontario Liberals had finally started polling really well, being competitive with Doug Ford's Conservatives, and it seems they're about to grasp defeat from the jaws of victory once again by fighting each other more than fighting their opponents.
All right. Great to talk to you as always, Jake. And people, the newsletters Jake Landau is tired. I believe you can find it at jakelandau.ca. And I would recommend it. Always some interesting insights from Jake. And yeah, great to have you explain the Ontario Liberal leadership race to me and my audience, and we'll have to do this again once the race heats up.
Yeah, I'm sure this was only part one, and I'm happy to be back on here again, as you're always happy to be on my show.
All right, take care.
You too. Cheers.